Hi, everyone. How's it going today? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Erica, and I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to kind of be able to log on here. I've probably met some of you guys, maybe in person, at a recruitment trip in one of the countries that Health Carousel International has traveled to. If not, maybe I've seen you online before. Um, but it's good to see you all today. Continue to log on, and we're looking forward to getting started today. I'm currently actually joining you from Cincinnati, Ohio. If you haven't Googled the great state of Ohio, you absolutely should. We have some good client facilities here. Maybe not as exciting as Los Angeles or New York City, but it's a great place. It is currently 80 degrees Fahrenheit here, which for most of you guys is that you're in the Celsius range. It's about 27 degrees Celsius. So it's a little warm, maybe not as warm as some places. I'm sure those of you joining from the Middle East or from Africa are probably, or even the Philippines, you're probably telling me that is not hot at all. That's actually cool. You'd probably wear a jacket. All right, we are at 10:02 a.m. I think we can go ahead and get started. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Erica Ponchot, and I am the Director of International Recruitment and Programs at Health Carousel International. Whether you're brand new here to the broadcast or you've been with us for a while, we're so glad to have you here. Each month, we are excited to bring together international nurses like you to prepare you for your move to the United States. So whether that is you're just starting your journey, maybe you haven't even joined our program, or you're already a part of our family. Now you might notice that we have turned off the chat feature. We are looking and exploring some different options to make sure that we can support you guys with the questions that you have. But if you have any questions we haven't answered after the session ends, you'll be able to just reply to the email that you receive when you receive the recording of the live broadcast, and someone will get back with you to respond to your question and get you an answer. And also, one thing I want to say as the Director of Recruitment, obviously, if you're not a part of our program, make sure that you reach out directly to a recruiter for help. We have an amazing team here who's looking forward to talking to you about the benefits of why you might want to have Health Carousel International support you and be your partner in your journey to America. You can apply online at PassportUSA.com. Just like it sounds, PassportUSA.com. Easy to fill out an application, and someone will follow up with you within 24 hours. So all of the segments that we're going to cover today are designed with one goal in mind, and that is to support you through every stage of your U.S. journey. So our team is here to provide you with a full circle of support, and you're going to see that today as we go through these various segments, and you get to meet some of my amazing colleagues here at Health Carousel International. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so to kick off today's broadcast, we're actually starting with one of our favorite segments, and that is the Employee of the Month. And I'm joined today by my colleague, Presley. She is one of our international employee supervisors. So she's one of the associates here that helps support all of our nurses while they're actually on assignment working in America. And she is here to help us celebrate some of the incredible nurses that are making a difference here in the United States. Hi, Presley. How are you today?
Hi, Erica. I'm doing really well.
It
How
looks
about
like your
yourself?
screen might be are we having maybe some connectivity issues?
Hi, Erica.
Presley?
Hi, Erica.
Oh, there you are.
I'm doing really well. How about yourself today?
I am doing great. I was getting a little bit worried. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to cover Presley's segment, but I would not do it near as well as you. So I am glad you got on the screen.
Yes, I am so glad. I'm so happy to be here with everyone today to recognize our July Employees of the Month. Now, every month we take time to honor international healthcare professionals who are going above and beyond in their roles and living out Healthcare Cell's mission of improving lives and making healthcare work better. Now, before we reveal July's winners, let's take a moment to recognize all of our outstanding nominees. Please join me in congratulating Eloise May, Maria Jemima, Jean, Renee Marie, and Rose. Congratulations to all of them. Each of them were nominated for their incredible dedication, professionalism, and the heart that they bring to their work. We're so proud of all of them, and they're doing well in their communities. Now, I'm thrilled to announce that our July Employees of the Month are, drumroll please, Eloise, May, and Rose. Congratulations to them both. Now, let's take a few moments to shine a light on what makes each of these nurses super special. Let's start with Eloisa May. Eloisa May first connected with Healthcare Cell shortly after passing her nursing board exams in the Philippines, when our team reached out and helped her turn her hashtag American dream into reality. Since arriving in the US, she says the most important lesson she's learned both in and out of the hospital is adaptability. From adjusting to new seasons, time zones, and cultural differences to navigating the fast paced neuro ICU environment, she's found that flexibility is essential in responding to all kinds of situations. Since arriving, working with critical ill patients, many of whom are sedated, on ventilators, or unable to communicate, has made her deeply value the unseen and often unheard care that nurses provide. Winning Healthcare Cells International's Employee of the Month award, she says, would be a meaningful recognition of that dedication and a motivating reminder that hard work never goes unnoticed. And when she's off the clock, she enjoys a comforting American breakfast at IHOP with her husband, pancake, eggs, beef sirloin, and hot chocolate after a long shift. Congrats again, Eloisa May. Now let's talk about Rose. Rose was drawn to Healthcare Cell because of the strong support system offered to international nurses transitioning to work in the United States. She appreciated the transparency of the recruitment process and the emphasis on professional growth. What stood out most was Healthcare Cell's commitment to helping nurses succeed not just in their careers, but in their personal lives as well. Since working in the US, Rose says adaptability has been one of her greatest lessons. The fast paced, high structured nature of American healthcare requires nurses to adjust quickly while still delivering excellent patient care. She also learned the value of advocating for patients, working closely with multidisciplinary teams, and embracing feedback and continuing education as a path to growth. Winning the Healthcare Cell International Employee of the Month award would be a tremendous honor for Rose, recognizing her dedication, the support she's received from her team, and the opportunities provided by Healthcare Cell. She says it would inspire her to continue striving for excellence and encourage others on their journey. And when it's time to relax, Rose enjoys his classic buffalo wings. The bold flavor and the tradition of sharing them with friends make it her favorite American food. Unfortunately, Eloisa May and Rose are not able to join us for today's broadcast, but we want to thank them for living Healthcare Cell's mission of improving lives and making healthcare work better. Now, Erica, back to you.
Thanks, Presley. They are truly testaments to the American dream. And congratulations again, Eloisa and Rose. We are so inspired by everything you've accomplished and the strength and the heart that you bring to your work. And for everyone online listening, I know a lot of you are waiting and you're like, oh, when is it going to be my time? You know, it's taking so long because of retrogression. Please be inspired by these stories. We have them here for a reason. And each of these nurses had to wait probably several years to make it to the United States because of the long lines, but they're here, and every day get up and have hope that your American dream will come to pass soon. So we are here to support you in that journey. And we were so excited to be a part and continue to be a part of Eloisa and Rose's journey. So let's see here. We are going to get started with our next segment soon. All right. In next big news, something that is coming your way this November. Nursing Careers Week is back. It is happening November 10th through the 14th. And this is a free global event that is open to all nurses wherever you are in your career and wherever you are in the world, which is very relevant to this call. We are building on the incredible momentum from last year to bring you even more this year. You will be joining thousands of nurses, literally thousands of nurses worldwide, for a week filled with more expert-led sessions to help you grow professionally, more powerful nurses' stories that inspire and connect, and more career building insight, whether you're just starting out or you're aiming for your next big opportunity. This event is exclusively presented by Health Carousel, and it's part of our commitment to supporting nurses through their education, inspiration, and access to resources that make a real difference. And in case you missed last year's event, you can still catch up on all the 2024 sessions at nursingcareersweek.com. That's nursingcareersweek.com. Registration for this year's event will be open in the coming weeks. And don't worry, we'll send you a direct email invite so you can sign up as soon as it's live. We can't wait to learn and grow with you in Nursing Careers Week 2025. All right. Now for our next segment, this is very exciting. Today, we are going to be talking about our Nursing in the USA segment. We're going to be focusing on a topic that every nurse and every person in general, but every nurse for sure will need at some point in their US journey, and that is interview tips. So whether you're just getting ready for your first interview with a hospital facility or you're looking to sharpen your skills for the future, this session will help you feel more confident, prepared, and ready to make a strong impression. Today, we're joined by two of my colleagues, two experts from our clinical support team, Ryan and Brad, who work closely with our international nurses like you, and they'll be sharing practical advice and actionable strategies to help you succeed in your next interview. So let's go ahead and get started. Ryan, I'm going to pass the mic over to you.
Thanks, Erica. For so many international nurses, the job interview is one of the most important and pivotal moments of your journey to the U.S. It's your chance to show the potential employer not only your clinical experience, but also your communication skills, your professionalism, readiness to really become integrated into the U.S. healthcare team, and who you are as a person. And so that's why this segment is so important. We want to make sure you are fully prepared from what to do before the interview, leading up to the day of your interview, and how to carry yourself during the conversation and how to follow up after. And so it is, me and Brad here from your clinical team to go over some of those tips and tricks to help you nail those interviews. So let's dive in and start talking about what you should do before your interview to set yourself up for success. So I'll look over to Brad. Brad, what are some of those things that all of our candidates can really think of and prepare prior to their interview?
Yep. Thanks, Ryan. So, when it comes to interviews, the preparation for the interview starts long before your interview actually occurs. So let's kind of focus on what to do before that interview. Well, the first step, we want to make sure that we have the clear details when it comes to what the interview is. What we mean by this is, when is the interview scheduled? Will it be a virtual interview or like a video call, or will it be over the phone? Who exactly are you going to be speaking to, and what is their role within the organization of the facility? What time will they be calling you? And is there a specific platform, whether it be Teams, Zoom, WebEx, making sure that you have access to that platform and have downloaded that well before the interview, so you're not scrambling at the last minute, messing with technology. As you can see, even we have some difficulty with technology from time to time, and any additional kind of contact information that they may need. How to get a hold of you after the interview. If any of this wasn't spelled out to you, you need to work back with your assignee and get those details to ensure that you have the full information going into this interview. Now, Ryan.
Yeah, Brad, can I jump in for just a second?
Absolutely.
I know from my personal experience, I get so nervous, like before something like this. I think it's good to have this like written down, like probably have a notepad, write it down, or at least put it in your like notes in your phone, because you get on the phone and then all of this just goes right out the door, right? You need like your little bullet list.
Yep. It's always great to have a little cheat sheet, right? So that you have that information in front of you. I mean, interviews can be very nerve-wracking and maybe stressful for some. So having that information documented in front of you is a great idea, Erica.
No, I would jump in and agree there. I mean, it's all about, if you can control the controllables, right? It is a huge stress relief for you to ensure that, everything goes well, during the actual interview.
Yeah. Because sometimes your mind just like goes blank and you're like, wait, where was I? What was I supposed to be doing here?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Ryan, after they have prepared themselves for this, what would be the next step that they would lead into for the interview?
Yeah. So, getting your, setup and everything planned out is important. It's also important to do a little bit of research, right? Get to know, where you're interviewing that potential employer, right? Prepare, right? So that way, when that day comes, you can really, nail that interview, right? Too many people make the mistake of winging the interview because they think, oh, it's just over the phone or it's virtual, it'll be a breeze. But, like Erica said, your mind can go blank, right? If you're not, really prepared for that interview. So it's good to prepare, do some research, and get to know who it is that you're interviewing with, right? So first, take a look at the job description, understand exactly what your role that you're interviewing is, what type of unit are you interviewing for, what type of organization or facility are you interviewing for, is it a big hospital, is it a small hospital, where is it located, right? Work with your team to get all the information you need so that you can be, really well aware of that facility. Do some digging into that company and that organization, right? Browse their websites, do some Google and internet searches to gather, some maybe recent news updates, read the employee testimonies, right? What are people that work there saying, right, about the place that they, spend a lot of their day, each and every day. And so it's good to learn all of that and get a sense of not just what your specific role is, but what the team does, their history, mission, and overall, that vibe that they put out. This will help you in crafting and tailoring your interview questions, asking thoughtful questions to them, and finding ways to incorporate that company's values and their vision into your own answer so that you can showcase what a great fit you are, right? So, it's just a good way to show them that you buy into what it is that they're selling, right? How they are running their organization, and how you can maybe make yourself stand out, as opposed to other candidates interviewing for the same position, by matching what they already have set up, what that pre-existing organism already looks like, to then blend in successfully.
Brian, I think that those are such good points. As the director of recruitment here, I obviously have interviewed a lot of candidates for our program, but also internal employees. And one of the biggest things that I look for in someone that's interviewing is that they have done some research and ask me some questions that shows that they have done that research. Because you can kind of tell if somebody's like just making things up out of the sky, or if they've legitimately jotted some things down literally on a piece of paper and ask a few simple questions that showed that they did some research. It's really, really important in interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get to the question asking part. I don't want to throw spoilers out there, but when I speak to candidates, I always say, right, you want to make sure not only, right, you don't want to make yourself stand out as a good candidate to them, but you also want to do some research and evaluate, is this a good place for you, right? Do their values and what they find important match what you find important and the values you have? Or are you going to have to sort of just go along with things maybe that you don't want to go along with, for the time that you may be there? So it's good to get used to that and figure out what that would look like along the way. But we all know the saying, practice makes perfect. And so, in terms of practicing for an interview, Brad, what are some tips, some advice you can maybe give to help candidates prepare for the interview?
Thanks, Ryan. So next on the list here is prepping answers to any possible interview question you may be asked. So as Ryan said, practice makes perfect, right? So what you can do is look at potential interview questions and prepare answers ahead of time to predictable questions that may be asked of you. By preparing for a phone interview, it isn't about crafting the answers to the predictable questions you may be asked, but it's knowing how to convey those answers over the phone. If you want to ensure you're making the right kind of impression, phone a friend and have them listen to your responses and give feedback. One of the big things that Ryan and I do and the rest of the clinical team is Health Carousel offers our interview prep sessions, which is a mock interview where we go over some of these frequently asked questions and provide you with feedback and coaching and guidance on how to answer those questions and convey the message that you want to convey. Another great tip here, and Erica kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, is creating a cheat sheet. There are frequent questions that get asked on almost every single interview. And you can prepare yourself ahead of time by having a thought out outline of how you're going to answer those questions. You don't need to write it in a paragraph form, but bullet points on where to kind of highlight the message that you want to convey. As Ryan said, with the research, you want to try to apply some of that research that you used into the answers that you are answering in the questions. A great example I use in the interview prep is many facilities and hospitals have what we call mission statements or value statements, kind of what they represent as an organization. And if you're able to apply their mission statement into your answers, that shows, as Erica said, that you've done your research and you are looking in and wanting to know more about that organization.
Yeah.
So,
Brad, I just wanted to reiterate what you said and highlight what you said earlier. This is something that you and Ryan do very regularly for our international nurses. And, I can't stress enough how much practicing is important, especially, our international nurses are sometimes struggling with their English, like speaking confidence maybe, and they are worried that they might just not even say something correctly. And so just practicing is what brings that confidence out. And sometimes it's even, I've done this before where I've practiced in front of like my family, and it's even nerve-wracking to do that. But like once you do it and you kind of stretch yourself that way a little bit, it just makes it a little bit easier. And you guys helping our nurses, I cannot stress like what an incredible benefit this is to our nurses. I Like, I don't know of any other agencies out here who do this. And, you know, the fact that you guys do this is a part of our full circle of support for our candidates. It's incredible. And you guys are amazing. And these tips are good for anyone, but this is incredible information. I just wanted to re-highlight that.
Absolutely. So with the practicing and preparation for the interviews, then we're going to kind of move on into the next step. So Ryan, I'm going to lean into you here and kind of discuss where we go from here.
Yeah. So, you know, in addition to a cheat sheet, right, having those notes, right. Again, I like to emphasize and really, you know, put in bold, like, don't, you know, pre-script out any answers, right? That, you know, is obvious during an interview if you have, you know, just been reading directly off a sheet. But again, the bullet points, the, you know, sort of those highlighting and just those key things where you could just glance over at your cheat sheet and really take those notes that you've written down, or, you know, maybe a couple of key words to help kind of remind your brain of what maybe your practice answer to those things were. The example I always use is the strengths and weakness question, which is like the most universal question during an interview, is, you know, maybe writing out 1 to 3, you know, 2 to 3 strengths, 2 to 3 weaknesses. That way you're prepared if they ask for more than one. And then you can, you know, describe those as needed. But, you know, in addition to that sheet, you might help also to print out your resume. I would highly encourage this as well, because a lot of the overall skills and background questions that they may ask you about the profession and the, you know, the two sides of an employer, the professional skills and then the clinical skills, right? And so a lot of what they're going to want to know is, how does your past experience and the skills and nursing attributes that you bring to the profession apply to the position you're interviewing for, right? So if I were a ICU nurse interviewing a candidate for an ICU position, I would certainly be looking over that resume and pointing out all the things that are applicable to the unit where we're interviewing for, and then maybe asking questions, you know, specifically around like sedation or ventilators or cardiac drips, those things that are highly focused into the ICU environment. And so read over your resume, be familiar with what was submitted to the facility and what they based their agreement to, you know, offer that interview over to you on, because certainly they'll want to evaluate that past experience that's listed there.
Hey, Ryan, can I jump in here and ask you and Brad both a question? So I think the strengths and weaknesses one is one that throws people off pretty easily, because it kind of gets you in your psyche a little bit. And if you haven't thought of some of these in advance, I know I will sometimes just like freeze up, like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to say? And I don't know. I wonder if this sometimes is an American way of interviewing, but I can say 99% of the interviews I've ever done, this is a question that you get, right? So it's an important one. I wonder could you give an example of like what you would say if someone said, like, what is your what did you think one of your greatest weaknesses and what is your greatest strength, so that our listeners can have a little bit of a better idea of what that means?
Yeah. So I would say universal.
I could also come up with one.
No, the great thing about offering the interview prep sessions is we do go over this specifically, but also I've had this conversation many times. And so, you know, through the, you know, coaching sessions I have, the most universally, I would say, common answer to the weakness is usually someone will say, like, I'm a perfectionist, right? And so the key and advice that I've always given for answering what is a weakness, which can be hard to do because it makes you become self-critical, is coming up with something that you can spin into a positive, right? Anything that you can take and say is a negative, but then can, you know, turn it into a positive is a huge win in the interview, but also highlighting how you have worked through your professional career to improve upon that weakness. So, you know, my example has always been, my greatest weakness is I'm a perfectionist. However, you know,
You spun that really well.
Right. You can just say
Yeah.
like, sometimes I just really, get so hyper-focused into the care I provide that it can impact my, time management ability. So I've been working on really
Yeah.
ensuring that I don't become too hyper-focused, and then I can ensure that my prioritization and time management is spent well. And so it's you acknowledging you have a weakness, how you've worked on it, but it's not something that the interviewer is going to be like, okay, that's pretty bad. So that's how I've always looked at it.
Great example.
I didn't know if Brad had another good example or a strength that he likes to kind of maybe use as an example along the way.
Yeah. I can identify a strength. One of my greatest strengths was my ability to be able to place IVs, and with that strength, I was able to teach and train other individuals on the techniques that I used in order to help build on their skills and betterment of the unit that we worked on. So much like Ryan did with his weakness, you're identifying your strength, and that's great that you have a strength, but how are you utilizing that for the betterment of the whole and the good of all, not just for yourself? Really putting a positive spin on things is important.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's such a good one. I love that. My son was just in the hospital actually this last weekend, and one of the nurses had to put in an IV, and I told her what a great job she had done at it. It was so smooth, and she's like, oh, well, there's this guy here, and he's like our trainer, and probably like you, Brad. You don't work in the hospital anymore, so I'm sure it wasn't you, but she was just talking about how great this guy was. He used to be in the he was a nurse in the Army, and now he teaches everybody at Children's how to do IVs, and I was like, what a cool thing. And so, yeah, going back to showing what value you would be adding, not only like in your own role, but to the entire team there. That's amazing. I love that example. I also wanted to add one more thing, guys, because I was talking about English speaking confidence. We actually, on my team, because I'm the director of recruitment and programs, and Lauren Williams is our English proficiency manager here at Healthcare Cell International. She's very passionate about supporting and helping our professionals with increasing their English proficiency. And we have a program called Conversation Partners that's so exciting because so many of our internal employees get to volunteer and actually speak with our healthcare professionals while they're still offshore, while they're still prepping. And really the whole goal of it is once a week to have a 20 or 30-minute conversation that could be about pop culture, sports, the weather, life in America, whatever it is kind of that you want to talk about, but just to help you get more comfortable talking to someone that's a native English speaker to increase your confidence. So if that's something you're worried about, maybe your skills are great, you're like, I've got all this other stuff down pat, but I need a little help with English. That's also something that's, again, a part of our full circle of support here at Healthcare Cell International that I wanted to put a plug in for. So I'll let you guys get back because I know I'm asking a lot of questions and distracting you.
No,
we'll have some other great things to cover.
I like keeping it, conversational, right? That's, I think a great way to progress through things so that it stays informative and engaging. To wrap up that, final section, kind of talking about the strength, right? That's why it's good to do research, right? Make sure that your strengths are tied to the organization as a whole and the place you're going to be working, right? So Brad being a ER nurse, right? Formerly in the acute care setting, right? He, focused a lot on IV care, right? And so that's a strong skill set that was applicable to his unit there. So just kind of thinking about what's important to that organization that you can provide as a strength. And then finally, gather the equipment you need, make sure there's no worries the day of the interview and during it, right? Have your phone charger, your laptop charger, tablet, whatever devices you're going to be using. Maybe have a backup if you can, right? Is there a backup plan for the interview? Headphones, microphone are always huge pluses, especially if maybe you might not be able to find a completely secluded and quiet environment just due to connectivity reasons. Notepad, pen, and pencil to take notes and jot things down during the interview, and then a bottle of water or something to sip on in case you get a little dry mouth and nervous. So all great things just to sort of gather and have prepared there during your interview. So finally, I think one of the things that can get overlooked at times is the importance to, dress the part, right? Look good, feel good, play good. What can, you do to prepare for the interview, but also not underestimating the virtual part of the interview, which is still being, in today's world, being able to see one another. What are some, tips and advice that you can provide, Brad, in terms of how to sort of dress the part and get set up for what will be seen on the other end of that interview?
Absolutely. So, in the final moments before your interview is scheduled and before you log on to the camera, you want to take the opportunity to dress the part, right? As Ryan said, look good, feel good, present good. You are doing a professional interview, so you want to make sure that you're not in your everyday clothes. You want to look presentable and put a good foot forward. Resist the urge to wear sweatpants or outfits that are more casual and go for a more professional look. You want to convey the kind of person that could rock it on this job, or at least an outfit that's comfortable enough and still makes you feel like a professional. The other important thing is you need to find a quiet, comfortable, and convenient place away from distractions. At home, this may mean locking yourself in a room that's away from family or pets, maybe a coffee shop nearby that's quiet enough that you are able to be heard and you can hear the interviewer. Whatever you decide, scope it out a day or two early for all the necessities. Make sure you have a comfy seat, minimal distraction. As Ryan said, if you're using a laptop, you got a charger so that your battery doesn't die mid interview. And just really cut the distractions by finding that ideal location. Try facing away from a window or towards a wall so you aren't distracted by people or other things that are happening around you. And the other thing, Ryan mentioned this, headphones are very key. That way you are directly connected and the outside noise is not distracting to you. They'll minimize the sound and help you further focus on the conversation and only the conversation. Don't eat or chew gum. It's okay to have some water there. We do get long-winded. I'm sure you've seen me probably take a couple drinks while on here. But yeah, don't be eating or chewing gum, and kind of go from there. Just set yourself up in a professional expectation for the interview that is going to occur shortly.
So I think that's a really good point, Brad, especially considering a lot of our nurses live in places where they might have to go to like an internet cafe or a coffee shop to get good, strong access. And so it's important to do that preparation work ahead of time and have that kind of all set up. Like it's great that you get to interview virtually. It makes it a little easier. At least you can dress up from just the waist up. But then there's other things you have to think about in terms of like the internet and a strong connection and a charger. Those are such good points.
So with all that preparation, the things that we would want you to do before the interview. Now let's talk about a few things to do during your interview. So Ryan, I'm going to have you kind of start that off.
Yeah. So after all the, leading up work comes the easy part, right? The actual interview itself. And so everything is connected, right? So during that interview, it's important to start off strong and have a good first impression, right? Which is also why it's important to make sure you are, visually demonstrating that, commitment to the interview opportunity through your appearance and setup, but then also, right, how you're conversing and making yourself sort of present at the beginning of that interview. So first, it's essential, right, to be on time. It's okay to be early, right? So that you are, again, making those professionalism demonstrations that do get noticed. And then, really focus in and nail that introduction, right? Introduce who you are, and, making sure you thank the interviewer for taking the time out of their day to sit down and interview you. And then you may want to say something that, really will set the tone from the beginning, make yourself stand out, right? Like, I always say, like, letting them see a little bit of your personality. It's easy to be caught up in the nervousness and the action, the point of the interview, right? To get interview and see if you can make a good fit for that position. But they want to know the person they're interviewing as well, who is going to become a part of their overall team atmosphere, the culture of the facility, and like I said before, spending a lot of time each week with one another. It's important to make sure that everyone will really mesh well. Have impeccable manners, and it may be good to learn how to small talk in case there are things that come up that are maybe there's a break in the action, or just having that ability to converse as you would having known the person for some time. So if it seems natural.
Hey, Ryan. Not to throw you off your game, but you just said something that I want to make sure we clarify for our international nurses. So in the United States, we do small talk pretty well. Like, we kind of all know what that means. Could you just give a little bit more detail on what small talk is?
So small talk usually is not focused in on maybe what the topic of conversation is, but if, let's, for example, say maybe there are two people that are attending the interview from the facility, and maybe the second person is running a little late, or they're not quite ready to jump into the interview. To fill that time, you may have what is known as small talk, where you're conversing about other topics that aren't, again, the focus. So you might be just talking about interests, what did you do over the weekend, what do you do in your free time, maybe
the weather,
right? Things that just kind of fill
sports.
That
Yeah.
Sports. They allow you to really get to know the other individual more on a personal level. It allows them to see your personality, but again, filling that time or that space in between.
Another great example, Erica, of small talk is exactly what you did, sharing the story of your son in the emergency department this weekend. Just making it a personable kind of connection in the interview, and that is a great example that you did just a few minutes ago.
Right. And if it seems natural, right, you don't have to jump straight into the business, right? Feel free to ask them how their day is going, talk about, like you said, the weather. They're great conversation starters. They help to bring down the atmosphere a little bit, the tension in the room. And then, ultimately leads to a much more comfortable interview process.
And I mean, honestly, Ryan and Brad, I know you guys will agree with me here, is that nurses, you guys are one of the best at small talk. Look, like, you guys have to go and enter a stranger's room daily and figure out what to chat about. It might be somebody that doesn't really even know what to say, or they might be in a very awkward or uncomfortable scenario. You guys are really good usually at breaking the ice. And so I think that's a good skill to convey that you can do over an interview, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But always remember, keep it appropriate, right? And kind of just those common things that everybody can relate to.
That's very true.
Again, manners first. And then also, if you have any interruptions, if there's something going on in the background, sound occurs or something, just apologize, address it. Better to pause than to continue while obviously dealing with some sort of straining, that's creating an issue hearing or conversing with the interview. So it's not always avoidable, but it's, again, manners and just making that good impression about, what's going on over to the interviewers. And then, so as we kind of get through the interview process and some of those things and round things out here today, one of the things that we do like to highlight is, leaning into the pauses and what that means. Another phrase that maybe needs a little clarification. So Brad, tell us a little bit about what it means to lean into a pause and how that can help impact an interview.
Yeah, absolutely. So with technology, all sorts of can cause some kind of awkward social moments, delay or overlaps in responses being one of those. So don't be afraid to take a moment of silence. It's okay to let the conversation breathe a little bit. When your interviewer asks a question, Wait a beat or two before answering them to ensure that they're fully finishing speaking. If you can't hear them, it is okay to politely say, "I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?" Or just make sure I understood you. You asked, and then you repeat the question. Um, if you're unsure of something, use that opportunity and use your voice to kind of clarify the question at hand to make sure that you fully understand it. And if they interrupt you, stop talking, let them finish before speaking. If they're doing this, either they're dealing with the technical difficulties or they want to refocus the conversation. You'll want to transition with them so everything that you say is clearly heard and understood. Really giving a little grace when it comes to these video chats and live interviews. Know that the internet's not always our best friend, and we have to have a little grace and understanding when it comes with that. So with that, as we go through here, we want to kind of talk about where is the excitement in your voice, and how do you portray that as you are discussing in your interview. Ryan, do you have a little thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, through communication, you have what's being said and how it's said. And so those are, two important things to keep in mind, and how you are expressing your answers, right? Again, letting them get to know you a little bit as a person, the emotions that you have, the excitement in your voice. That's an important thing to share and show. Again, it helps to bring down the tension level of the interview if you can be engaged, with your nonverbal cues, right? So the tone of your voice, being aware of, how loud you are speaking, the excitement or displeasure, right? Just kind of being aware that to make sure you're maybe providing those positive contributions to the interview itself.
Ryan, can I plug something in here? Because I recently just had an experience with a nurse that was struggling with this a little bit, and I've actually met her at a recruitment event, and she literally is just a very sunshiny, exuberant kind of person, and amazing nurse and good experience. But we were seeing some struggles in interviews. And one of the things that we realized is during her actual interviews, she was sounding very kind of monotone. And it was probably going back to some of it, maybe confidence in her interview abilities or speaking English, abilities. But something we had to talk to her about was hey, it's almost like you have to over exaggerate when you're on the phone, or be a little bit even more dramatic, because they might not be able to fully see your body language or your smile, especially if you're not on a camera. Most of the time we have the ability to do the video chats and you can see someone smiling, but you can hear it in their voice too. But this is so important. I can't state it enough. Some of us are more dramatic than others. Guilty over here. But then some of us have a little bit more of, a monotone communication, which is great. Those people are usually really good and analytical at getting their words across. But sometimes we just need to get the excitement out a little bit, kind of convey that we're really enthusiastic about talking to the person we're talking to.
Right. I mean, if you're excited, it's okay to sound excited, right? If you something funny is said, right, it's okay to laugh, right? It's important not to get so hidden behind the seriousness of the interview that you're so hyper focused on, just staring at your screen and answering the question that was provided. So again, they want to get to know you. They want to get to know your contributions to their team and the person that will be joining them in their organization. And then the last really big thing that we like to go over is, ensuring that your messages, the things that you are saying, are coming across clearly to the interviewers. And so, Brad, what are some tips that you can provide in terms of just, through the conversation, things can get a little choppy and maybe hard to hear for digital reasons, right? What advice can you provide to help ensure we're overcoming any of those barriers?
So self-awareness is crucial when you're talking in an interview. With only your voice to carry you through, you want to make sure that everything you're saying is clear and concise. So catch yourself when you start to ramble or chatter or go a mile a minute. just slow down, kind of take that pause and get your thoughts together and convey those clear and concisely. Pay attention, practice active listening, and don't multitask. So when you're doing your interview, you should be fully dedicated to that interview and not other things that may be occurring around you. Don't be working on something else or even reading your own notes while the person is talking. This means repeating relevant points. Write them down if you really want to remember them, and using fillers like okay, yes, and right to express that what you're talking about. Okay, so with that, it's just really conveying that communication to them clearly, and so that they do understand that. And so with that, we, as Ryan started us off, we want to start strong, but we also want to finish strong.
Yeah, absolutely. So finish strong. Let them know, you really appreciate the time that they provided to you. Just like I would say, I appreciate everybody's time here today to allow us to go over this important subject, right? And let them know that you do look forward to hearing back from them soon, right? Kind of putting them a little bit on the spot that you're excited about the opportunity. You want to, get the process going, becoming a part of that organization.
You guys made some amazing points today. I just want to add, you guys actually have all of this amazing knowledge in your head, but I know neither of you would have remembered all of this. You guys had bullets. You guys had notes of things you wanted to make sure you conveyed, right? To get the point across here. Otherwise, we would have forgot things. So preparation is key, and it builds confidence.
100%.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate everybody's time. I'll pass it back over, and let us know if you need anything out there, and if you need to schedule any interview prep.
All right. And guys, I just want to remind everyone on the call, all of our listeners today, you are not alone in this journey. Remember, Healthcare USA International provides the full circle of support. Our clinical team is one of the literal foundation pieces of that full circle support. And they're here to provide you with support and confidence to make sure that you're ready when the opportunity comes. All right. So for everyone online today, that was just such great information. We are moving on to our next segment, and that is our featured location segment. So it's one of our favorite ones. I know that you guys are always thinking about, where am I going to move? Where am I going to live? We know that many of you are tuning in from different parts of the world, and you're probably preparing for your life in the United States. And you're wondering, where am I going to go? Where am I going to live? What's the weather going to be like? What is there to do in America? What's life like outside of work, outside of the hospital? One pro tip I'm going to add in here for you guys is do research on a lot of different states. I know that, a lot of you watch television and you see all of the popular places, like I had mentioned earlier, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York City, San Francisco, but there are so many other cool places in the United States to live. And we're going to talk about one of those great states today. This month, we are spotlighting the great state of Pennsylvania. It's a state rich with history, thriving with healthcare systems and vibrant communities. From peaceful suburbs to world-class cities like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are offering a little bit more of the metro vibe. It's got something for everyone. If you like the outdoors, you've got hiking, you've got a lot of outdoor activities. Some people like to ski there. And then you've also, got like I mentioned, the metro areas and lots of sports teams. A lot of people talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know if anyone's into U.S. football. We don't like the Steelers here in Cincinnati because we're Bengals fans, but there's just something for everyone. So today, to walk us through what Pennsylvania has to offer, we're joined by one of our senior account managers at Healthcare USA International, one of my friends, Michelle. Welcome, Michelle. How are you today?
Hey, Erica. I'm good. And hi, everyone that is watching. I'm so glad to be here and be able to share some information with everyone about Pennsylvania. I think you're going to find that it is a beautiful state, just like I think it is. There's lots of opportunity there for culture, career growth, community, and, whatever you're drawn to, whatever, if it's the excitement, like Erica said, of the big city, or the peacefulness of rural towns and Amish communities and horse and buggies, Pennsylvania has it all. So they have something for everyone.
They do. Before we dive into the details, though, we like to do our little map quiz. I know that many of you are still getting to know the U.S. geography, as am I sometimes as well. So I think this is a great map to kind of help us get oriented. You're going to see 4 quadrants. Which quadrant do you think that Pennsylvania is located in? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? Or is it 4? And the correct answer is quadrant 1. It is located in 1, where you see the little star up there. It actually borders Ohio. So it is in the northeastern US, and it is bordered by states like New York, New Jersey, Ohio, where we are, the heart of it all, they like to say, and Maryland. So it's also just a few hours from big cities like New York City and Washington, D.C. So as I said, really important to do the research. Oh, did I say, is it in quadrant 2? Did I say it's in quadrant 1? I think I messed up. It is in quadrant 2. I'm so sorry, guys. Look, we're all figuring it out together, right? But it is next to some of those big metro cities. And that's something I like to tell candidates when they're talking about, like, where should I even think about moving or researching? The great thing about the United States is people like to do things called road trips. So you can easily take a road trip to a lot of different cool cities from even more rural areas. Like, for example, we're in Cincinnati and it's about a 4-hour drive to go to Chicago. So we could do like a weekend trip there. So just some things to keep in mind when you're looking at locations. But Michelle, I am going to pass it back to you to talk a little bit more about Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so now that we all know where Pennsylvania is, we're going to take a little seasonal tour to see what it's like to live there all year round. So the one thing about Pennsylvania is that winters are chilly and they are magical. I will put in the plug for our good friend Taylor Swift, who is from Pennsylvania and had a Christmas tree farm there. So that's something exciting about Pennsylvania. But temperatures in the winter range from -6 to 4 degrees Celsius. So from snowy small towns to frozen rivers, winters bring a peaceful charm to everyday life. This here is a photo of the Susquehanna River, and it captures the quiet beauty of Pennsylvania in the winter. Whether you're talking about, wanting to take a peaceful walk or watching the snowfall from your window in the winter, Pennsylvania offers moments of calm and reflection during those busy journeys of relocation. Next up is spring. So as things start to warm up, Pennsylvania really starts to bloom, and the temperatures will range from 4 degrees Celsius to 19 degrees Celsius. And this is where you'll find the wonderful cherry blossoms in the park. You'll find some farmers markets opening back up and lots of outdoor events. This picture here is of the Schuylkill River Trail in Philadelphia with the cherry blossoms. It's a scenic trail and is very popular for walking, biking, or just enjoying the views as the flowers start to bloom along the river. And then we're going to move on to summer. So in the summer months, Pennsylvania is warm and full of life. It's perfect for things like hiking, swimming, attending one of maybe the cultural festivals. And here the temperatures will range from 16 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius. And on your screen here, you're going to see a photo of the Presque Isle State Park, which is in Erie, Pennsylvania. This lakeside gem is like a little mini beach getaway right inside of Pennsylvania. So there you can swim, kayak, paddleboard, or just relax by the water. And moving on to fall. So fall in Pennsylvania is just iconic. The temperatures range from 7 degrees Celsius to 21 degrees Celsius. You'll have some crisp air and just beautiful, colorful leaves. It's one of the most beautiful seasons in the Northeast. And you can just see here in the picture, you look at the colors and they're reflecting on the water. This is at Parker Dam State Park. This is located at the heart of the Moshannon State Forest. It's a peaceful destination, offers a lot of hiking trails, a tranquil lake, stunning views of autumn foliage. And it's just perfect place for hiking and photography or relaxing with your family, maybe having a picnic. Now that you've seen the beauty of all 4 seasons, let's talk about something just as important. Or more important in my book, how far is your paycheck going to go in Pennsylvania? So the good thing about Pennsylvania is that it offers one of the most affordable lifestyles among the entire U.S. With major healthcare employers. The cost of living index there is 94. And what that means to you is that it's 6% lower than the U.S. average. So that makes it a smart and stable choice for international nurses like yourselves who want to make a strong start right out of the gate. And we're going to take a look at the housing. So a 1-bedroom apartment in Pennsylvania will cost you about $1,000, a little over $1,000, $1,050 a month. And that's significantly more affordable than what you'll find in the larger cities. And it gives you more room in your budget for things like savings or family. And like Erica said, when you want to go on those road trips and see what else is out there in the US, you'll have the money to travel. So looking at the daily essentials, gas is going to cost you about $3.50 a gallon. Milk is going to cost you about $3 a carton. And heating oil is going to cost you about $3.60 a gallon. And these are practical costs that you'll manage every week, and they're all much lower than what you'll find in other places like in New York or California, say. You're going to find much higher costs there. Transportation is another key part in your monthly budget. In most areas, people drive, especially, in the more rural towns. There's not often public transportation. However, in cities that are a little bit larger, like Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, there's going to be public transit. So public transit will cost you about $45 a month. Traffic is generally light to moderate, making commutes manageable. And as you can see, you'll save hundreds of dollars every month just by living in Pennsylvania instead of those higher cost states like New York or California. And that means less financial stress on you, more flexibility for you to plan for your future as well. So whether you're living or visiting the historic sites or enjoying the outdoors, exploring food from around the world, Pennsylvania offers a lot of culture, a lot of diversity, strong communities, room to grow your career. And all in all, it's a great location that's affordable and welcoming. So I just want to thank you all for exploring Pennsylvania with me today. And I hope this helped you imagine what life would be like if you chose Pennsylvania as the start of your U.S. journey.
I think this was really educational, Michelle. Thank you so much. I think it was a great overview. I think one of my favorite parts of Pennsylvania is similar to Ohio, is having the 4 seasons. I have lived in Florida before, which I know is where you live now, and you don't have as much of those seasons, but the seasons kind of keep you guessing. And it's like it's really cold, and then all of a sudden you get warm, and then you get hot, and then it starts to cool off. It's fun. You get to buy new clothes every season. It's always a good reason for me, a little retail therapy. So anyway, thank you so much about sharing all about Pennsylvania, Michelle, and make sure for all of our listeners that you're going on and doing your research and looking up states that might be a little bit outside of something that you thought about before. And this is a good one. All right, let's dive into the September Visa Bulletin to help you understand where things are currently standing. Each month, we try to share the latest updates on immigration and remind you of the steps that you can take while you wait. And to walk you through everything you need to know, I am going to be joined today by my colleague and friend, Elizabeth, who is our Associate Director of Immigration and Licensing here at Health Carousel International. And she's going to talk us through the September Visa Bulletin. Hi, Elizabeth. Thanks for joining today.
Hi, Erica. Happy to be here. Hi, everyone. So, as you may know, each month the Department of State issues the Visa Bulletin for September, starting on September 1st. There was no change in any category for any chargeability country.
Hi, everyone. I think we're having maybe a little technical difficulties. Did we lose Elizabeth?
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
okay.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
There you are.
Excellent. Excellent. So, in case I dropped out, the Department of State issues the Visa Bulletin in the middle of the month for the upcoming month. So this is the September Visa Bulletin we're going to be talking about. It'll go into effect on September 1st. There is no change to any of the priority dates for any category or for any chargeability country. That is not unexpected, so don't despair. The government fiscal year runs from October 1st to September 30th. And, they only have a certain amount of visas that they're able to issue each year. So usually by the end of the summer, starting around August, maybe sometimes July, August into September, we do see a slowdown. Sometimes we see a retrogression. So positive that there was no further retrogression, but there is no change. Now on October 1st, we will be receiving a whole new allotment of employment-based immigrant visas that can be issued. So we should see some movement October 1st. So really no change for September, but we're looking forward to October.
Right. That was a good update, Elizabeth. I know that our listeners, our candidates, they get very frustrated, and understandably so. Like when there are these backlogs, it just means that there's so many nurses who also are trying to get to the United States. And I just want to remind all of you, during the last several years that I've worked at Health Carousel International, actually since 2013, which is a long time. Most of the time I've worked here, there have been states of retrogression for various segments, right? And it's just a normal part of immigration in the USA. I know it's a frustrating part, but don't lose hope. A reminder of the fact that we are your full circle of support. Elizabeth is a perfect example of that. She's very passionate about her job and runs our legal team here that is here to support you every step of the way. So you always have answers to your questions. You know where you are in your particular journey. And while we might not be able to tell you exactly when you're going to get to the United States, we're doing our very best every day to get you here as soon as possible. And that is part of Elizabeth's job. So, I appreciate you being on, Elizabeth. One of the big questions that we get from candidates all the time is, when will my priority date be current? Could you help us just kind of unwrap that a little bit?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we aren't able to predict the movement in the Visa Bulletin. As I touched on briefly, there is a certain number of employment-based immigrant visas that are available each year. So there's 140,000, give or take, immigrant visas that are available each year. And that is broken down. If you saw the Visa Bulletin, we're paying attention, you see 5 different categories of employment-based, categories, and then all of the countries. So each country and each category gets a certain number of those immigrant visas. And then included in that is their family members. And so it's broken down by your country of birth and the category that you're in. And so the government is doing its best to predict how many are available. When we're in a state of retrogression, that means that the demand for those visas outnumber the available visas. A rough estimate is to look at your priority date and then look at the visa bulletin. So for all chargeability, April 1st, 2023, you can think that your wait should be about a year and a half or so before your number is called, basically, when your priority date becomes current. Now, it can then unpredictably retrogress, or it can advance much faster than expected. So it's just something that we have to keep an eye on very closely each month to see what movement there is. But a rough estimate is just to calculate your priority date based against what is listed on the visa bulletin, and you have a rough timeline of how long it might take you to get here.
That is really helpful. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's hard. I know it's hard for our candidates to hear that, because it's like you just wish there was a black and white answer, and unfortunately there's not. But I will tell you, Elizabeth is on top of it. She is monitoring that every single month, and she sends out the updates to our entire internal team to keep us in the know as well. So we know how to talk to you, our candidates, and keep you, make sure you have the answers that you need to all of the questions that you have about your journey. So there are things that are within your power, while you're waiting to get to the United States, that are in your control. And one of the big questions that we get, and I'm hoping maybe my friend Brad, our clinical, let's see here. Yes, Brad is joining me again, is going to help me answer this question. But one of the big questions that we get is it important to maintain my bedside work experience while my visa is processing? And this is a really important question. I think there you are, Brad.
I'm here.
It looked like your screen was black for me for a second. I've been having some technical difficulties today. So
all good.
Can you break this down a little bit for us?
Absolutely, Erica. This is a question that the clinical team has presented often, and we have conversations with our professionals and the nurses that we work with about this. Nursing is an ever-evolving profession. There are new best practices that are coming about. Nursing 20 years ago, when I started, looks very different than it does today. And being aware and informed about those changes in nursing is very important. The best way to do that is to engage in that bedside work and get those experiences. Not only does that keep you up to date on those best practices, but it also keeps your skills at a high level, because you're doing those on a daily or weekly basis, and you're maintaining those skills. At the end of the day, it's not always just like riding a bike, just hop on and I'll remember. When we evolve with nursing skills, it's really good to have in the moment, real time experiences when it comes to that. So if you're able to, you're not working in a clinical setting currently, if you're able to do some kind of volunteer work in a clinical setting, or maybe some part-time work, it's really important to gain those skills.
Yeah, Brad, I think you make some really good points. I think from your experience, because you've worked here several years now, and talking to our nurses, our foreign educated nurses, how different is maybe the healthcare systems they're coming from to here, and how does that help with their transition to practice, keeping those skills up to date? Because we know there's going to be some challenges, right? That's just to be expected. But how does this help contribute to their transition to practice?
It really helps contribute, because if you are up to date on your skills, that's one less thing that you're going to have to adjust and assimilate to in the U.S. We know that the U.S. healthcare system looks much different than many healthcare systems from around the world that many of our international nurses come from. So being up to date on those nursing skills and knowing those, that's one less thing that you're going to have to adjust to as you're adjusting to the U.S. healthcare system here.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's a lot of skills that are core skills to the nursing profession. And those are the ones, you were on our interview segment, and when we have the hospitals that are interviewing our candidates, they're aware that they're coming from a different country and there's going to be a lot of different things, but those core skills are the ones that are really important, right? Like in an acute care hospital setting, for example.
Yep. Nursing at its root is the basis, and it's really falling in line with every facility has a different way of doing the same procedure, and it may look a different, but the underlying nursing responsibility is the same. And being up to date and knowing those and practicing those in your bedside care is the important thing.
Thank you. That's really good information. I'm glad you could join me today. I knew that you would say that better than I could from a clinical perspective. One other question we get a lot is, what types of facilities does Healthcare International place their healthcare professionals at? And I know you can speak to this as well, because you work very closely with the account management and sales team, and then also with all of our nurses that are working currently at these facilities.
Yeah. So we place our nurses at a vast, what's the word I'm looking for? Many different types of facilities. We have a large acute care level 1 trauma. And when I say level 1 trauma, you're thinking of the highest level of care in a hospital system, all the way down to what we would call long-term care facilities and everything in between. So you will have acute care hospitals, you will have trauma hospitals, you will have community hospitals. We have rehab facilities, we have long-term care, we have short-term long-term care, but we have a very good diversity of opportunities available to you when it comes to that.
But kind of going back to what we were just talking about, everything you just mentioned does really need for you to have up-to-date bedside patient care skill set. So keeping those skills up to date is the one thing that is really in your control. So much in life, we face things that are out of our control, and the visa bulletin is one of those. Like how fast immigration is going is one of those. But you guys all know you're going to eventually make it to the United States and hopefully practice nursing here. And so one thing you can control is continuing to keep those bedside skills up to date. So if you're not working right now, really important to make that a goal to find a job. And even if it's just part-time, that is better than nothing, right? And that's something that is within your control. And we highly recommend that you do, so that we can help find you the best assignment possible here in the United States. It's a good fit for your skills. And so thank you so much, Brad, for being on here at the end to help answer those questions. I want to thank everyone online, all of our listeners, for joining us today. I hope that you found this live broadcast as informative and as helpful as I did. I learned a lot today as well. Also, where Pennsylvania is located in the quadrant. That was a big one that I had to learn. I hope that you all have a wonderful morning, a wonderful afternoon, or a wonderful evening, wherever that you're tuning in from in the world. And we'll see you all next month. Bye-bye.